Welcome back. We're going to be doing some more objective personality terminology for all of you verbal masochists out there. I'll be introducing the binary coins, so we'll be looking at introversion and extroversion, as well as function genders. So a lot of functions in objective personality operate on a coin basis. And a coin quality is where if you know what's on one side, you know what's on the other side. They are connected with each other. Another example of this would be like a water molecule where if the electrons get pulled to one side, that gives it a negative charge. That means that the other side of the molecule has a positive charge. So we remember each of the four functions. Each of these four functions has the same sort of connection. So if you have a person who has a lot of feeling, it means they don't have as much thinking. If they have a lot of intuition, it means that they don't have as much sensing. In addition to that, we're going to be talking about introversion and extroversion, where if one side is extroverted, the other side is introverted. We're going to be drawing this using the function and then a little letter which is going to say the charge. So SI is introverted sensing, SE is extroverted sensing. And introverted functions are deeper, they're more personal, and they're not as accessible to other people. While the extroverted functions are more shallow, they're broader, and they're more accessible to other people. So we have the cute little molecular diagrams, and before we had the four letters, now we're going to be adding this other letter to them, which is the introverted or extroverted charge. So this person is going to be overall an introvert, and their thinking is their introverted side, while their feeling is their extroverted side. Bernie Sanders is a good example of this. So he has introverted thinking and extroverted feeling. And you can kind of tell that in the way that he goes through his logical processes. Those are coming from himself, whereas his values are more easily accessible and are more focused on the way that people at large think about values.
But let me be very clear. I voted for Obamacare, but to be very honest with you, I'm not going to argue with anybody who says that it is too complicated. I am an advocate of a Medicare for all single-payer program. I think Obamacare is a good Republican Romney-type program, which has worked in Massachusetts. It's a moderate program which addresses some needs. But let me be clear, and I want to throw this out to you guys. Okay. As you know, the United States of America, our very great country, is the only nation in the entire industrialized world that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. Second of all, we end up spending almost twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other nation. Thirdly, our health care outcomes and our life expectancy falls behind many other countries who spend a lot less. So my own view is that we should learn from the rest of the industrialized world, say that every man, woman, and child is guaranteed health care, expand Medicare to all people. That's my view.
And the way that he talks about values is a little bit more extroverted. It has to do with the way that people as a whole relate to and understand value.
And I think people are sick and tired of the greed and the power of a handful of people on top. They want a government which represents all of us, not just the 1%.
George Bush is the opposite, where he is using extroverted thinking, which is how everyone relates to how things work, and he uses introverted feeling, where he thinks about values in terms of individual actors and how each of them individually thinks about moral principles.
And so there was a common understanding that all of us should promote pro-growth economic policy. We also talked about broader reform. So our discussions were focused on today and what we're doing about it, but what are we going to do to make sure that doesn't happen tomorrow?
Were that we need to support Israel. No ands, ifs, or buts. This was an unprovoked attack by terrorist people willing to kill innocent people to achieve an objective. Hamas is a political organization. They do not reflect the majority of the Palestinians. Don't be surprised if Israel takes whatever action is necessary to defend herself.
So the way he's talking about values in that example, everyone has their own individual set of values, but we have this group area in which we can cooperate with each other. It's a different way of approaching your relationship with people. So in addition to introversion and extroversion, there are gender coins. So each function has a gender, masculine and feminine. Masculine functions are more well-defined, they're more forceful, while feminine functions are a little bit fuzzier and they're more flexible. So going back to Bernie Sanders, his thinking is introverted and feminine, while his feeling is extroverted and masculine. And if you go back and look at those clips again, you'll notice that his thinking, the way that he does logic, is a little bit more flexible, while his feeling and values are a little bit more forceful and well-defined. A lot of people have asked whether or not we should really be using gender terms to describe this sort of quality of the functions. I think there are pros and cons. Some of the pros are that this is sort of an intuitive way of thinking about these functions. People with feminine identities will frequently describe themselves as having a feminine identity, and people with masculine identity functions will frequently describe themselves as being more masculine. And these are the terms that Dave and Shannon use, so it's important to have people familiar with these terms if they want to use Dave and Shannon's videos. A number of people have argued against using gendered adjectives to describe these functions. Gender is very complicated. Men and women both have feminine and masculine functions, and people are very hesitant to describe men or women using specific adjectives because there is so much overlap. And people are very sensitive to whether or not gendered adjectives are viewed in a positive or negative light. And so if that makes it difficult, there are alternatives. So for example, you could use mullish versus flexible, uses the same abbreviation but no gender. There's forceful and flexible, or solid and squishy. I think all of those are perfectly fine. It's whatever works for you. So in summary, the personality functions have coins. They have introverted and extroverted coins, and there are masculine and feminine coins, where each function has an introverted or extroverted charge and a masculine or feminine charge. And one of the cool things about this in objective personality is that if you know something about one coin, it means you can infer the opposite about the other function. Nice job. You've absorbed some more terminology. Go take a break, and I'll see you in the next video.